Theo had always taken pride in his sharp eye for detail. Years in the world of finance had sharpened that skill, where the smallest oversight could derail a multi-million-dollar deal. But when it came to Margot, his wife of 9 years, he was beginning to realize he might have missed something far more personal. They first crossed paths during a corporate retreat, the kind Margot would later call textbook cliché, though what they shared was anything but typical. Back then, she was a junior analyst with a quick wit and a laugh that could catch anyone off guard. Theo was already climbing the corporate ladder in mergers and acquisitions. What started as long nights fueled by takeout, coffee, and spreadsheets gradually turned into quiet mornings, slow weekends, and eventually, a life centered around their daughter, EA. 4 years, their routine had a rhythm. Morning school runs, back-to-back meetings, quick kisses between cooking and cleaning. Everything just clicked, until it didn't. The shift began subtly. Margot started spritzing on a citrus perfume she once said was too bold for work. Then came the pencil skirts and heels, not that Theo minded. He admired how confidently she moved, her heels echoing down the hallway like the tick of a well-tuned metronome. But when her late nights at the office became more frequent, twice a week, sometimes more, and her phone began living face down on the counter, he couldn't ignore the changes. Her laughter became just a little too polished. Her smiles didn't quite reach her eyes. One evening, while EA practiced scales on the piano in the living room, Margot stepped out of the bathroom with damp hair, phone in hand, thumbing through messages. Theo reached for her fingers, but she recoiled ever so slightly, nearly dropping the device. "Sorry," she chuckled, tucking a damp strand behind her ear. "Work stress. Julian's been writing me hard about the quarterly audit." Julian, the new CFO, known for his cold precision and made-to-measure suits. Theo had met him once at the company's holiday party. Firm handshake. Icy gaze. Theo had joked afterward that Julian looked like a Bond villain. Margot hadn't laughed. In the weeks that followed, the distance between them widened. Margot missed EA's ballet recital. She blamed a sudden conference call from Singapore. She forgot the dinner Theo had planned to celebrate their anniversary. "I'll make it up to you, I promise." But even her promises felt like echoes now. She began sleeping farther and farther toward the edge of their bed. When Theo tried to raise the subject, she'd deflect, a kiss to his temple, a soft, later, or a distracted, okay. The moment everything cracked happened on a stormy Thursday. Theo had left his umbrella at the office and ducked into a small cafe near Margot's building to ride out the rain. Through the fogged-up window, he caught sight of her, not in her standard navy blazer, but in a red dress he didn't recognize. Across from her sat Julian, laughing. He leaned in and casually brushed a crumb from her lips. Theo's chest tightened. He tried to rationalize it. They were co-workers, just having lunch. Maybe she really did have something on her face. But when she returned home that night, her lips were bare, dry, almost raw, and all Theo could see was the imprint of another man's thumb. "You're quiet," she murmured, slipping under the covers. "Long day," he replied. The next morning, Theo arrived at the office early. Sleep had evaded him. He hovered by the window near Margot's department, eyes locked on the parking lot. Her car finally rolled in, 45 minutes late. She rushed in, cheeks flushed, adjusting her blouse as she disappeared into the building. At lunch, Theo ran into Julian by the elevators. "Heard the audit's nearly wrapped up," Julian said casually, flashing a thin smile. Theo forced a smile, though it barely reached his eyes. Julian's glance shifted momentarily toward Margot's office. "Your wife's been instrumental," he said smoothly. "Her attention to detail is impressive." Theo's grip tightened around his coffee cup until his knuckles turned white. Later that day, Margot seemed to vanish again. "Client lunch," her assistant offered with a vague smile. 10 minutes passed before Theo followed a hunch. He headed to a downtown bistro, one he knew she liked. The place was mostly empty, quiet and secluded, with high booths and privacy screens shielding diners from view. He spotted Julian's briefcase first. Then Margot's hand, resting lightly on the table, mere inches from Julian's. Theo's phone buzzed. A message from Margot, "Stuck in a meeting, don't wait for me for dinner." He stared at the screen, then back at her, laughing, leaning slightly forward. The sound of her laughter reached him like a note played in the wrong key. For the first time in years, he didn't recognize it. Shaking, Theo slid into a booth near the entrance, back turned to them. Cutlery clinked around him, voices blurred into an indistinct hum. He ordered a black coffee he had no intention of drinking. His reflection stared back at him from the back of a spoon. Should I confront her? Right here. No. The urge clawed at his chest, but EA's face rose in his mind. Her big, hopeful eyes. The way she still believed in fairy tales and families that stayed together. He couldn't tear that apart in a public scene. He left the cafe without touching the coffee. That night, Margot came home carrying sushi, EA's favorite. Her voice too cheerful as she recounted a dull client call. Theo watched her unpack the takeout onto porcelain plates. Her nails caught his eye. Deep burgundy polish. She hadn't painted them in years. "You're staring," she said, glancing up. "Just admiring the color," he murmured. Her smile faltered. "It's something new." Something new. The words lodged in his chest like a splinter. Over the next few days, Theo became hyper-aware of every shift. Margot now locked her phone, left its screen down every night. She'd taken a sudden interest in weekend yoga sessions, for stress relief, she claimed. Once, he noticed a faint mark on her neck she masked with a silk scarf. He tried to dismiss it, maybe a rash, or a bug bite. Anything but what it actually was. Then one morning, as Theo flipped pancakes, EA asked without warning, "Why does Mommy smell like cigarettes?" His hand froze mid-flip. Margot hadn't smoked since college. "Maybe someone at her office does," he replied, keeping his voice light. "But she was late again," EA pressed, her legs swinging from the breakfast bar. "She promised to read to me." The spatula slipped from Theo's hand. Grease hissed against the stove. After that, he began tracking Margot. Not every day, just enough to build a picture. Her yoga studio turned out to be a boutique hotel downtown. Her client meetings often coincided with Julian's business trips. Once, he followed her to a quiet park. She sat alone on a bench, frantically typing on her phone, until a tall man approached, not Julian. Broad-shouldered, unfamiliar. Theo's heart pounded. But the man simply handed her a manila envelope and walked away. Business, Theo told himself. It's always business. But the unease refused to settle. He started waking at 3 a.m., scrolling through her emails. Her password was EA's birthday, easy enough. But everything looked too neat. Just spreadsheets. Meetings. Nothing unusual. Too clean. The final crack came on a gray October morning. Margot had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. A Slack notification blinked. "J, today 1 p.m., usual place." Theo clicked. The chat thread felt like a punch to the gut. "G, Mr. Laugh. M, not here. G, then where? M, you know." Attached were photos. A loft with exposed brick, tousled sheets. Margot, grinning. Margot, her head thrown back in unguarded laughter. Margot, in another man's shirt. Theo barely made it to the sink before he vomited. He confronted her in the parking garage beneath their apartment complex. She had texted that she'd be home by 7. It was nearly 8:30. Theo stood in front of her car, blocking the door beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Her face looked pale, drained of all color. "Who is he?" His voice cracked. "The loft. The photos. Who is he?" Margot's composure fell away. She leaned against the hood of the car, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "His name is Cole. From the Chicago office. It started after I got the promotion. You were always gone, Theo. Meetings. Deadlines. I felt invisible." "So it's my fault," he said bitterly. "No. I don't know. Maybe." Her voice wavered. "You stopped seeing me, Theo." "But he did." Theo reeled. 9 years, he whispered. "You threw it all away." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she snapped, her voice breaking. "Or EA. I swear. But I couldn't breathe anymore. Every day I felt like I was drowning, trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect mom." "So you lied." "I tried to stop." She shouted now, the words bouncing off the concrete. "I ended it. last month. But he threatened to send you everything, the photos, the emails. Theo's legs gave out. He grabbed the side mirror of the car to stay upright. "You're still seeing him," he muttered. Margot didn't reply. She moved out the next morning. EA cried against Theo's chest, asking questions he didn't know how to answer. The divorce papers came soon after, crisp, clean, her signature already in place. Julian resigned shortly after. Rumor had it HR got involved. Theo didn't ask. He handed in his own notice too, trading corporate life for freelance work and joint custody of EA. Sometimes at night, he lay awake, wondering when it all began. If Margot's laughter had always been a mask. If her love had been slipping away long before he noticed. But then EA would crawl into his lap, her tiny hands touching his stubbled cheeks, and for a moment, everything stopped hurting.